Welcome to High Strangeness, where we ask questions and explore all that is strange and unexpected in our reality.
Have you ever looked up at a stormy sky and seen something strange? A glowing orb or a fast-moving shimmer, or something almost alive? Today on High Strangeness, we're going to ask a bold question. What if some unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs, aren't spacecraft, but are actually life forms? Not life from the stars, but from the clouds above us. What I'm talking about is cloud-borne life forms, and the plasma-like entities that might just be sharing our skies. In the context of UAP research, cloud-borne life forms are referred to the idea that something or some sightings might be explained by life, or something like life existing in Earth's atmosphere. Not drones, not aliens, but perhaps something stranger. I'm talking about at least two different things here. The first, plasma-like entities, also known as plasmoids. These are energetic, glowing masses of ionized gas that have been observed in the atmosphere, the upper layer of our atmosphere, behaving in strange ways, moving intelligently, changing shape, and appearing to respond to electromagnetic energy. So some scientists wonder, could these be a form of pre-life, or maybe even inorganic life? It's speculative, yes, but the sky might not be as empty as we think. Plasma is the fourth state of matter, after solid, liquid, and gas. It's energetic, chaotic, and found in things like lightning, the sun, and maybe, just maybe, in conscious forms. Some researchers suggest that plasma could organize itself into structures that exhibit life-like behaviors. These ideas draw from a fringe but fascinating field of study of non-biological life. Here's what we know. Plasma responds to electromagnetic fields. It can form stable glowing shapes, and under certain conditions, it seems to move with intention. Could some UAPs be attracted to thunderstorms because it's their version of, food or energy? We're not talking about alien ships here. We're talking about atmospheric organisms, possibly ancient and possibly unaware of us. Okay, so it's not just Earth. Scientists have long speculated about cloud-borne life on other planets. Take Venus, for example. In 2020, researchers detected phosphine gas in its upper atmosphere. On Earth, phosphine is produced by microbes in oxygen-free environments. Now, no one's claiming we've found Venetian birds flying through clouds or anything like that. But the idea of aerial microbial ecosystems isn't science fiction anymore. So if life can potentially exist in the clouds of Venus, well, why not here? Maybe some forms of life don't crawl on the ground. They float, they drift, or glow. Maybe they don't need bodies like ours at all. Okay, so let's take a step back. Most people hear UAP, or its previous name of UFO, and think extraterrestrial spacecraft. But UAP simply means something flying we can't explain. No assumptions, no green men. Some UAP sightings might be weather, others secret tech. But what if a subset of these sightings, especially those involving glowing spheres, rapidly moving orbs, or oddly shaped structures, are actually natural, even alive? Meaning no engines, no metal, just plasma flowing currents and signals we don't yet understand. Or odd material that's not common to us. And maybe we don't see them more often because they're higher up than we actually look.
Hey everybody, we are going to talk about the next section, and I've got with me Ron, and in order to illustrate a little bit about this topic, or this segment, he and I saw a film recently, and we're just going to share our thoughts about that. In the earlier parts of this, we talked about some different things, plasma entities, orbs, but there are also things out there in the sky. Things like jellyfish, they're probes, they're drones, we're not sure what they are, odd-shaped entities or things in the sky, things that appear to be cloaked. And then, of course, what we're going to kind of talk about at this point, which is a cloud-borne life form, also called a sentient sky phenomena or an ether-borne being. That's the different names, Ron, for these things. But essentially, it's something in the sky that is represented in this movie that's been out for a couple years that both you and I saw recently called Nope. And I don't know. Let's start off with just talking about how that movie began. I mean, it's a cowboy. He trains horses. They have a ranch, and horses are used for basically Hollywood films, shows, different things like that. And they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and they start seeing some weird things in the sky. What did you think in that part of the movie, the very beginning, when that started to happen? What were your thoughts about that?
I thought it was typical of what you hear about a lot of the UFO phenomena out to, like Matt Brazel's ranch. I mean, they know that's the Roswell crash, but out in the middle of nowhere makes a lot of sense for, if something's going to happen, that's the place for it to happen.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, when I was watching it, I thought to myself, okay, all right, let's see where this is going. I thought it was pretty interesting. What could this thing be, But they were pretty, I don't know, I kind of felt like they were a little evasive about what was in the sky for a while, right? Like for the first little bit of the film, you don't really know exactly what it is. And it definitely is creepy, though. And I don't know, they did have some weird things in the movie that were going back in time with an actor and some of his experiences that he had as a show as a young person.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that fit into the rest of the movie. It was a little bizarre. What do you think?
The only correlation I saw is that apparently, like, as they get later on in the movie with once the entity is revealed for the most part, and it's triggered by an event that almost sets it off and sends it into a frenzy, like the monkey, right?
Yeah.
There was a noise you heard. I mean, they didn't show it because it went dark, but you heard like a bang, and then all of a sudden, and the guy's trying to calm the monkey down. The monkey, you just hear the monkey go nuts. So that's the only correlation I could come up with. That was the only reason I could think they would even have that ridiculous, grotesque event happening in the movie.
Yeah.
And maybe.
Yeah, that you make a good point, though, because, I mean, for the longest time I was trying to figure out how that connects, but that does make sense. Like, they're trying to tie those two things together. This thing in the sky, and it responds or reacts, and this monkey that was on a show that did this crazy, horrendous thing
like
to the cast.
Like it's a natural response for an animal, or what in this particular case was some, what did you call it earlier? Some
Cloudborn life
form. I mean, maybe it's instinctual that when it's triggered or feels threatened, then it just attacks in self-defense. Maybe it was a self-defense.
So, okay, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, sorry, we're telling you a little bit about it, but this is actually a life form as you go through this movie that you realize is it's hiding up in the clouds. And the film tries to suggest that, hey, maybe there is some kind of life form up there that we are misidentifying as UFOs. Now, in this movie, that life form kind of looked like a saucer. So, okay, in that sense, I see how he was trying to tie that together and make that seem like something. And you know how a lot of the UFOs have like that center that's either lights up or is darker? Well, in this film, the center of that beast did what?
Oh, it sucked people up into it and it digested them. It used like a funnel cloud to suck them all up. It was that would be horrifying.
I know, right? Well, it makes me think, like the first time I saw that, I thought to myself, okay, every time I see a dust devil, I might look straight up to see what's above. So that's the thing that they're trying to suggest in this film, that there could be things out there in the sky that could be a life form. As I start looking at life forms in the deep sea, I often think to myself, what the heck? They're the strangest looking things I've ever seen. And I start to think to myself, we don't see it way down there, and it's really almost alien looking. And so is there something up in the clouds? Maybe not the size of a football field like that thing was, but is there something the size of a bird or a butterfly that lives in the clouds? Maybe. I mean, who knows?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's organismic life caused it. The Earth is full of that kind of life.
Right.
And so, I mean, why not? I mean, I think they've found life forms in our atmosphere, up into the stratosphere, right? Then they find orgasmic or plasmic kind of life in the atmosphere. I believe
Yeah.
they have way up there, 20,000 feet. I mean, almost at the edge of leaving our
Yeah, our
atmosphere.
atmosphere. Hmm.
So I mean, something like that. No, I don't believe that. But I mean, I get it was a neat concept.
Right.
Really, but literally atmospheric. There's a lot in our atmosphere that's mysterious. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things, like you said, cloaked that we see that looks like something's cloaking or even stuck in like in the movie when the cloud it didn't move. There's been things observed kind of similar to that in our atmosphere at times.
Yeah.
If I am to be correct on that, I think I've seen things like that in clips. So no, I mean. There's a lot. I mean, this is just for the movie's
Yeah.
sake. I'll leave my other philosophical thoughts out of it. But
Yeah.
this is as far as there's definitely life in our atmosphere.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is science. Don't close all these things off because who knows? I mean, one of the things is the plasma that's up there in space and around the planet, and the sun has plasma. And so, like, if it reacts or responds differently than things we see here, it deserves study so that we can understand that. Doesn't mean it's alien. Doesn't mean it's really anything other than a natural thing that we just don't understand yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think when in this space of UAP and UFO, a lot of people want to jump right away to, oh, that's extraterrestrial and that's alien. And I think it could be just something very natural. So who knows?
Well, haven't you? I think it might have been Ancient Aliens or one of those shows I've watched in the past where they had a thing on like the octopus and underwater life, and they said the octopus did not match up DNA wise to anything else in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
And it looks alien compared to anything else in the ocean. I get what I obviously I believe it was just they've always been there, and I think it's just an oddity, but
Yeah.
I could see definitely why they would want to study this as far as
Yeah. Agreed. So there you go, everybody. Cloudborn life forms. Science should check it out. See what's going on there.
Okay, so to be clear, there's no definitive evidence that cloud-borne life forms exist. NASA and other scientific bodies are studying UAP data. Some researchers are exploring plasma behavior, life in extreme environments, and what life might mean in non-biological contexts. But we must separate speculation from conclusion, right? But still, speculation is the first step to discovery. As we investigate UAPs, not as myths, but as data, we open ourselves to explanations that challenge everything we think we know about biology, physics, and the skies. Okay, everyone, so next time you look up at the clouds and see something flicker or move, don't ask yourself if it's a ship, maybe ask if it's something alive. From plasma to orbs, or jellyfish shapes to phasing blobs, life might not just come from the stars. It might already be above us. Thank you all for being with us today. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment and tell someone all about us. But in the end, remember, there's a lot of strange and unexpected in our reality, so always keep your eyes, ears, and minds open. And until next time, stay safe.
Thank you for listening to High Strangeness. This was a glance at some of the strange that exists in our reality.